Welcome back to another fabulous video. Hopefully my voice makes it all the way to the end of the content. Today we're going to be switching gears. We're going to be looking at the basic principles of the Constitution. And our goal as we go through all of these principles is to figure out how each of them contribute to the concept of a limited government, which is what we have in the United States. All right, so the first one is popular sovereignty. And we've talked about this term before. Popular sovereignty means that the people have the power, the people have the government power. Okay, so somebody like John Locke, who believed that government power flows from the people, would have embraced this idea of popular sovereignty. All right, so I want you to think about on your chart in your notes how popular sovereignty is practiced. Like, what do we do to demonstrate popular sovereignty? Okay. Another big principle that our Constitution was founded upon was the idea of representation. We wanted to make sure that we were represented in our government. And that goes all the way back to our history as British colonies, that we wanted to make sure that we didn't repeat that we didn't repeat those issues that we were having when we were not represented, when we didn't have a parliamentary leader who represented the colonies who could speak on our behalf. Federalism is another principle of the Constitution that especially in Article 4, that deals specifically with relationships among the states, that every state is going to have their own state government, and then we've got our federal government. And there should never be there shouldn't be, but sometimes there is, any conflict between a state law and a federal law. And if there is a conflict, then theoretically that state law should bow to the federal law, so to speak. Also, the concept of federalism, just in case you need a definition of it, federalism is a division of power between the states and the federal government. Next, we have the concept of limited government. And this is probably the easiest definition you'll ever have in your entire life. Limited government is government that is limited in power. That's it. Government is limited and not absolute. We also subscribe to something called the rule of law. And the rule of law tells us that everyone is subject to the law. Nobody in the United States is above the law. So it doesn't matter who you are, if you're Joe Schmo on the street, if you're Mrs. Petty teaching government, or if you're the president of the United States, you are subject to the law. If you break the law, you're going to suffer the consequences, okay? We also believe in due process in the United States. So due process is this idea that before you are deprived or before you lose your right to life, liberty, or property, you have to follow a specific process. Like you have to be, for example, told what you're accused of. You have to be given an opportunity to defend yourself. You have to be given a lawyer to support you. All of those kind of things go into the process of due process. Next, we have judicial review, which we already learned about. Judicial review is the authority of the courts to determine the constitutionality of acts of Congress or the president. You may want to pause me and rewind me on that one. But this was established by that landmark case of Marbury v. Madison. And that tells us that the federal courts, whether that be the district courts, the appellate courts, the Supreme Court, they can look at an act of Congress or the president and can determine whether or not it is in accordance with the Constitution. And if it's not, then that law or act can't be practiced. Okay? Then we've got separation of powers, and this is a division of power among three branches of government to ensure that no one person gets too much power. We've talked about separation of powers before with Baron de Montesquieu. And then we've got checks and balances. And checks and balances work very closely with that concept of separation of powers in that each branch of government has responsibilities in the other branches that they can check up on each other to make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, okay? And with that, I will stop with this video. And if you guys have any questions, let me know.